What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 60 today, for a discussion of some very big news. Actually, for once, we have not missed the big news of the week, I guess. We've not been unlucky with that drop. And so you're joined by usual hosts, myself, Callum, and Tom. And of course, as you can already see by the title, the big news really is that we should be getting in the next week, before or at the Singapore Grand Prix, the news that Carlos Sainz may be going to Renault. That will then kind of trickle and domino effect everything to set in motion McLaren-Renault partnership, Toro Rosso Honda, and then potentially Gasly or Matsushita to Toro Rosso. And that could even start at the Malaysian Grand Prix, we've heard. It could happen from the Malaysian Grand Prix, Sainz to Renault and Gasly or Matsushita in already. So, guys, reactions, thoughts?
Silly
everything.
Season has begun, and I love it. It's always after Monza. It's always around Monza. I think we've always had the big names, but I don't know. It's got really exciting because I think we're finally seeing the McLaren. Obviously, a lot of you guys know that watch the podcast. We talk about McLaren a lot, so it's finally we might actually be able to speak less about McLaren because they might be doing a little bit better. We might be able to see Fernando Alonso still on the grid after he removed all of his Honda and McLaren stuff off his social media, which was quite interesting. We can discuss about that in a sec. And we're getting some rookies in, which obviously we can be happy about, and we're basically kicking out. Basically, the two people out of the whole stories we're going to talk about at the minute are basically Toro Rosso. They're kind of being mugged off a little bit here, and Jolyon Palmer. So discuss.
Yeah, discuss. I mean, you say mugged off. Like I think Tom, you brought it up in the last podcast. I think it was about the whole long-term plan here for the Red Bull family. Is that obviously with Honda being with Toro Rosso, that's the junior team. And Red Bull, from what I've read in an article, it was in German, but I translated it. From what I read in that, it was the fact that Red Bull are confident that Honda could turn this around in the next year or two. So the hope is that they have the test year with Toro Rosso, they become good. Red Bull end their Renault deal early, bring in the Honda engine, and finally take the fight to Ferrari and Mercedes with a kind of basically factory engine, effectively, by that point, if they're just supplying the Red Bull family. So yeah, it's a big old domino effect, like 5 different plot points that all get affected by each other, which is kind of really exciting.
Yeah,
I
still don't know how McLaren-Renault, like, it doesn't sound right. It just seems weird to me. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I might be missing something here, but I don't understand why Sainz going to Renault has triggered all of a sudden that Renault is now partnering McLaren Honda.
You know what it is? It's an
a
incentive.
Yeah,
it's an incentive for Renault because
it's to sweeten the deal.
Yeah, because the ending the contract for Renault just looks bad, like on Renault's half from Toro Rosso. So Toro Rosso's like, oh, well, we'll give you Sainz if we can end this. So it's almost like a little incentive, which it is quite like, if you think about it, if you step back a little bit, it's quite an odd little pattern. Like you wouldn't link Toro Rosso, McLaren, Honda, and Renault all together. You wouldn't think there'd be a link there, but it is really affected, like, in terms of a domino effect. It's really interesting. I think, was it back in Silverstone when, I think it was almost in the vlog, where this link between Sainz and Renault, that was first brought about, and I think there was a link between him coming in for Hungary, and obviously that was kind of pushed about.
Yeah, there was a link of him.
But that's one of the rumours that actually was kind of true, but this time it's for Malaysia.
Yeah, it was like always that rumor that I think we discussed it in the podcast we did as well.
The
like
drunken podcast.
him coming to replace Palmer basically at some point in the season. So now it looks like it may actually happen potentially. That part of the story is kind of still a little bit up in the air, but the kind of more confirmed thing that we should get the announcement next week is that he will be going to Renault if it's earlier in the season. That also opens up, as I mentioned, you've got Matsushita, who's a Honda basically driver. At the moment he's a development driver for McLaren, but as we understand from the articles, he could be basically relieved of his duties from McLaren, and then Honda, obviously, with them coming in with Toro Rosso next year, will push to already get him in that car if Sainz does indeed leave mid-season for Renault. And then at the same time, Toro Rosso and Red Bull would have to maybe argue with Honda a little bit of maybe they want Gasly in there as well. He just literally won back-to-back races in his Super Formula at the race weekend, literally today and yesterday. So, there's an argument there. So that'll be a little bit of clash of heads of Honda v Red Bull already in terms of who they want to get as the driver replaces Sainz. But yeah,
if they're looking to get Matsushita in, you look at the other side of the Toro Rosso garage. You don't cost Pierre a seat.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a huge change. That would basically mean, like, you wipe the slate clean of Toro Rosso then, basically mid-season, which would be kind of crazy, but also kind of cool.
Yeah.
It'd be cool for me to, like, it's kind of cool as well, because, you know, we've said, or at least I've said it, I don't know about you two really, but I just don't rate Kvyat that much. I don't have a problem with him. He's a decent guy. He's shown a few little spurts of, you know, good driving, but for me now, it's just too little too late for him, and a clean slate would be amazing to see Gasly and Matsushita come in straight away, like bang, for the rest of the season from Malaysia. That'd be kind of crazy.
When we had Sainz and Verstappen after Alguersuari and Buemi.
Yeah.
It's like a breath of fresh air almost. But also, I think there's a big caveat on Matsushita is he doesn't have enough super license points.
He needs to get.
He needs to have a banger over the end of the F2 season, so that's a little incentive for him.
But
you get third. Well,
they're
that's the thing.
To favour young drivers from F2.
I think from next year though.
They're also they're trying to make F2 more of a thing. So they're like, if you want to get into Formula 1, you need to be in F2, which is probably the reason why they changed the name in the first place. But I think they're trying to make it a bit more of a linear way rather than you just skipping a step almost, such as like Lance Stroll. I think Kvyat did it as well, Bottas as well. Like drivers that skipped GP2 at the time. But that's an incentive for Matsushita to just be like, right, get third, and we'll get you a seat for 2018 in Formula 1. So he can really get his head down for the rest of the season.
If Sainz was to leave at Malaysia, then it would have to be Gasly that steps in then, because he's the only one that would actually be eligible out of the two. But then, as you said, for next season, then there's that argument of, okay, so what's going to happen? Obviously, that clean slate could be very, very cool. Because, again, back to Silverstone. Silverstone was the same weekend that we maybe heard that Kvyat was confirmed for next year, that he pretty much was a formality at this stage. But now that's maybe looking up in the air. He hasn't actually still officially signed that contract. It's more of everyone's just been saying it's a formality. But now that's kind of thrown up in the air that, like Tom said, that clean slate could be pretty damn nice to kind of see.
It does leave the program in a slight issue, though. I think.
They've also just dropped Carey as well. They dropped him at Monza. They confirmed he wasn't going to be part of the Red Bull program anymore. So they don't actually have too many else. They have, I can't remember his name exactly how to pronounce it. I think Verschuur, who's another Dutch driver.
But he's not ready for F1 at all. So
they dropped, like a year ago, they dropped Seta Camara. So they don't actually have too many left. I think there's literally just Verschuur and maybe one other guy that I can't remember. So yeah, the Red Bull program is running a little thin now, and they're probably going to be on the lookout for another youngster.
If Max Verstappen gets a little bit angsty, like I don't know what is how he can break out. I don't know whether he's under contract or if he's got an option to break out of the contract. But let's say he did, and let's say the Germans were quite interested in them, even though I still believe that they're going to hold on to Bottas because he's done a fine job as a number 2 driver. It's up to him on whether or not he wants to be a number 2 driver or not, but I think Bottas will be happy to be in 2018 with Mercedes. But let's say they didn't hold on to Bottas and they wanted Verstappen to push Hamilton even more, then that really does leave the Red Bull program. Kvyat back to Red Bull. I don't think... Well, no one would have predicted it, but that's the only real option that they've got.
Or you stick Gasly straight in the Red Bull.
Which I did. Red Bull on.
It's a little
bit.
They're
not keen on taking risks with drivers, so they're very safe.
From a background perspective, I don't think that maybe not Horner, but Marco, I don't think likes the idea of Gasly getting straight in there because he likes a very aggressive driver. That's why he's always kind of defended Kvyat a little bit. He likes a driver with an edge rather than just a safe driver. And although Kvyat's not amazing and does crash a little bit, he's still got that edge that Marco prefers compared to Gasly, who has never really shown an edge about him. He's just kind of, very nice and respectful, pretty much.
He doesn't crash, though.
Yeah, he doesn't crash, but that's
genuinely
the thing,
not a seat going for Verstappen now. I really can't see a seat anywhere for him, unfortunately.
Well, no, not this year. Maybe in the future. I think Bottas is locked down.
I can't see one. Bottas is going to be locked down, and I think it'll be more than a 1-year contract this time around, because this was just a test to see how you've coped. I think they'll be happy. They'll probably put on a 3-year deal. And then we know that Ferrari seat of Raikkonen is being tailor-made for probably Charles Leclerc. So...
Yeah, that's the thing, like the whole Ferrari side of it, the Ferrari Haas,
that's locked down.
Sauber, that's like ever since Sauber ditched the Honda deal, it's kind of accepted that, Sauber is basically the junior team for Ferrari, as is Haas really. Like in a way. Like if if they want to get rid of Magnussen or Grosjean, they can. They
probably could put a lot of pressure on Haas, yeah.
But that side, it's interesting on the Mercedes part because, like you said, Tommy, I think the thing is on the Mercedes side, they've just got to think, right, Lewis Hamilton is our lead driver. He's going for the championship. Does he need a driver? Does he need a teammate to push him to get the most out of him? That's what Rosberg did. That's why probably Mercedes excelled so much in the past couple of years. So then you've got to think, well, Bottas isn't pushing him probably as much as Rosberg, and their working relationship is a lot better. But they've actually got another team pushing them. So that he's still Hamilton. If they're trying to please Hamilton, or trying to get the most out of Hamilton, well, he's got Sebastian Vettel pushing him. So in terms of Mercedes on the general, they don't really need a young gun like Verstappen at the moment to push him because it's just going fine. And yeah, money wise,
constructors, they're still doing the job. So.
Yeah, they're doing the exact job. So it's just Verstappen. He's basically just kind of stuck in the same way that Ricciardo's kind of stuck, because it just doesn't seem that like Red Bull have been making steps forward, but is it just in chronological order together, with Ferrari and Mercedes? They're
in the same boat, basically, just hoping that Red Bull finally actually can make a step up one of these winters back to where they used to be, basically. Unfortunately for those two, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a traffic jam at the top, as it were, for the top team.
As per usual, really, but and then obviously a little bit further down, obviously on the Red Bull side, that's sorted. And then you've got Honda, well, the McLaren drivers, can't really call them like the McLaren Honda drivers anymore. The McLaren drivers for now are where you've got Matsushita, who looks like he's going to be stringed in, and then you've got Lando Norris, who is being planned. I think Zach Brown said, yeah, we're just going to put him straight into F2. But obviously, if Alonso scampers, I think they might be able. I don't know whether they can bring in Lando Norris because he's already done the test in 17. Hungary.
That's very like.
Well, Max Verstappen was, but you know, how young is young?
We'll see. I would think that like McLaren, bit of a safe. They don't really take major risks. Really, in reality.
Like I'll put it this way: Jenson Button's technically penciled in for next year.
Yeah, he's still technically a contracted driver as much as he doesn't want to be, basically. Like, he's very happy to be on holiday. So, yeah, and I don't think McLaren want to take risks. So I think they'd rather put Norris in F2, get him that season. Because he's done his, like, whatever it is, F3, like European F3. There's so many different F3s in technicality.
F3s, all the threes.
There's different regions of F3. But he's done F3, but, putting him in F2 would be the much bigger kind of confirmation of
also,
if he's good enough.
F2 with Prema as well, so he's going to be in a good seat because obviously with Charles Leclerc probably going to win, so he won't be driving in F2 next year. So he's got a seat there and ready.
It's not been mentioned.
Perfect.
It's not been mentioned, but just a little kind of shout out to also Nick De Vries, who's in F2 at the moment. He is a McLaren junior driver, but I don't think from the reports it doesn't look like many people are touting him as on the radar already. Which is unfortunate for him. But I mean, he did have a pretty okay performance at Monza, apart from the little crash with Leclerc in the first race. But yeah, unfortunate for him, maybe not to be on the radar. But so you've got 3-4 different kind of teams having maybe major changes coming up in the next couple of races, 1 week.
I think for the last 3 years, every winter we've been waiting for the big change that we all think was going to be triggered by Raikkonen leaving Ferrari. Instead, it's the McLaren Honda thing sort of blowing up. And then,
well, the last big change on the grid was like Hamilton to Mercedes, and then that
pretty
kind
much,
of bumped everyone along.
That was the first big, and Vettel, that was the two last big catastrophic. Oh my god.
Oh my god. But it's not, this time it's not even a big driver, it's just a big,
it's
big
an
team.
Engine. Yeah. It's like an engine swap. And this basically means that Toro Rosso will become, for at least 1 year, because Honda won't be with Red Bull straight away, so Toro Rosso will become a factory team for like a year.
Yeah, they will, which is quite a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah, very weird.
Or more. I mean, it depends how long. Red Bull might not sign until they see results.
Yeah, if Honda don't pick up the pace, then it might be for 2 years they become a factory team, because Red Bull only break, because Red Bull are contract to Renault for more than the year, so the only way they would break that contract and kind of potentially have a bit of a nasty relationship then if they do break it early would be if the Honda engine is definitely there, and that would basically mean that Toro Rosso would have to be showing up some very good performances by the end of 2018, which would be kind of crazy, because if the Honda engine does pick up that much pace to the point where Red Bull would sign it, it could be kind of like a funny thing of Toro Rosso kind of being on level with Red Bull for at least the last few races of that year.
They'd have the upper
Meanwhile,
hand,
McLaren will be sat in a dark corner thinking, what if we
that's
just
the thing,
stay
like,
for one more year?
Everyone's been saying,
but that's the
is
thing.
this a waste of 3 years for McLaren? And you think about it, it's a waste of 3 years. But I feel like the general mood is just never really going to recover. It's just a very not toxic relationship, but it's just a relationship that hasn't gelled. It hasn't gone together very well. Just get
3
out
years of negativity like that is it as much as you'd say may get turned around by 1 year of success. It's still like that was a long 3 years. This has been a long 3 years for every single mechanic in that team. You know, Alonso, all the people behind the scenes in the factory. It's probably been a very grueling 3 years of like, oh, you're working so hard, and then the car fails.
Yeah.
The car fails. So
them going to Renault, and then, but obviously the main reason McLaren went to Honda was to become a winning team again. And well, they've given up on that dream, and they've just gone, yeah, we'll just be a customer for now. Just get us back to the front, and then this is where the whole idea of making their own engine, 2021. A few people on Twitter going, what's it going to be called? The McLaren? Seriously.
I mean, the official name would technically be that, because Ferrari is for a Scuderia Ferrari, the official
just
standing
McLaren.
name. But yeah, in terms of the actual trading name, it would just be McLaren Racing, pretty much. Probably,
which would be quite strong for them.
I mean, by 2021, Zach has said that he wants a new title sponsor by 2021-ish. So maybe it's just title sponsor McLaren, and then that's
meant to be one for next season.
Apparently.
Well, they don't really have one, do they, at the minute? Like, they don't really have a main one. They haven't had a main one since Vodafone.
No, they haven't had a main one.
Ever since Vodafone walked out.
The closest one to a main one would probably be at this stage, like Chandon, probably, the champagne sponsor, probably.
Yeah. So it's weird on that set. But is there any more, like, team news? I don't think there's any...
that's pretty much it for that major kind of bubble of transfers.
Apparently Perez is close to a new deal at Force India, which obviously might become Force One next season.
Force One become more global.
They'll be happy with him and
Sauber and Haas are pretty much focusing on next year's cars now. Sauber are completely on next year's car. Obviously,
I hope so.
They've got works. Well, they've got works up to date 2018 Ferrari engines.
I have high hopes. I really do. I really want them to actually not be about 5 million seconds behind every single race.
You sound like me with Manor last season.
Yeah, but the thing is, it actually pissed me off. It actually pissed me off watching the Belgian Grand Prix. Like thinking back to it, like there was a helicopter shot of the main straight and then turn one and then up to Rouge, and it actually pissed me off the gap from one car to Sauber. It was like, that is actually just stupid. Like Pascal and Marcus are literally just driving around like a test session every single race.
It's like Manor 2015.
Yeah,
literally.
It actually annoyed me to like look at it and kind of realise that's their reality. I mean, they're getting paid to do it, but...
Yeah, at least all them years ago, though, when it was like Caterham, HRT, and Marussia, at least they could fight each other. Like,
yeah,
now
exactly.
It's just
fight for the wooden spoon. Now it's like, you've already got the wooden spoon. You've already got it.
But in like more other news, I actually don't think there's... Obviously, everyone's like, oh, Alonso might go to IndyCar now because he's removed all of his Honda thing. I think he's just pissed off with Honda. I don't think he'll leave Formula 1 now with this.
I mean, that could be just a marketing thing to then swoop in with McLaren-Renault stuff later on down the line. Or, it could just be because he wants to promote his karting school because they have an event the last weekend, probably, as well.
He's promoting his karting school and he's promoting also the Kimar brand.
He's gotten really strong with that. Like, they're a big, big personal sponsor of his now. Like, he does every single week there's something.
Well, I'm getting to the point now where I feel like it might be his company. He might have like a stakehold in it because he seems to be constantly improving. So it only makes sense why he's strongly like plugging it. But also, I think other news I saw, possible return to Argentina for 2019.
Probably going to speak about that now. Yeah,
they're not going to race around the short circuit. They're racing around the longer one. The short one was.
I wouldn't know. Yeah, I wouldn't know on this one, but there has been a lot of speculation around the calendar again. Before we get into it, they've put the limit at 25, which I still think is quite excessive to say.
That's a lot of races.
But the whole reason why they're going to put the limit at 25 is because they're wanting to change the calendar about a little bit. And we spoke a little bit before the podcast just to have an idea behind it of basically just grouping together all of the American sort of races, especially on the left side of the world, if you think about England in the middle, all the European, and then all of the Asian races. So it helps with logistical issues, marketing issues. You can have like certain sponsors which you can keep on the car for certain races. You don't have to keep flying the car back and keep changing it and everything.
It's good to have 25 races in a season. If the only way they're going to make that work, and this sort of ties in with what was rumoured this week, apparently trying to fix the whole grid penalty system with the engines. The only way that would work is if they get rid of the 4 components of the power unit for 25 races cap.
Oh yeah, that's
have like 7 or 8, and then let them race more freely. Because the only other issue with 25 is we mentioned this before on the podcast. Teams like Sauber, teams like I don't know who's the team who's trying for financials. I don't know, but 25 races is a huge investment, and it increases the likelihood of them going under, unless, because they've focused on each continent, the travelling and like maintenance maybe requires less because you have to fly, like you said, Cal, fly things back, get them changed, fly out upgrades, whatever. So I don't know, it could work, but
well, you see how hectic it is. I don't know whether you two are watching the Mercedes Monza to Singapore, but if anyone hasn't watched it, give it a watch because it gives a good insight into how hectic it is between the European races and then the flyaways, because I think they had like a day and a half to get the cars turned around and ready, like the certain parts of the car which they need to get turned around and everything. And it does go to show like how manic it is when they're doing the flyaway races and they're having to plan ahead. They say that, we're not going to see these chassis now until the end of the season, like people at the factory and everything. But I don't know, in terms of the calendar itself, I think a calendar change wouldn't go down, I think, amazingly well, but I think it would be welcomed eventually. I think people will like the slight change, because it would be almost like a music festival, or put it like an artist going on tour. Like he's going on a tour around the world, and it's a little bit like a little carnival that goes around the world. I think it'd be a little bit more, it will give it that, I don't know what the word is.
From hub to hub, rather than just
like
track
kind of
to
what
track.
like NASCAR is. So like I think Top Gear did it. It's like it's like almost like a roller coaster. Like they do it, and then they're on to the next track, literally next week. And I think it would be, almost a welcome change, because at the minute, it's obviously the calendar stayed very similar, but then obviously we do ruin certain aspects, such as like we have the typical like Monaco's always round 6 and Australia's always round 1, and we always finish in Abu Dhabi, and we always have Brazil towards the end of the season, even though Brazil obviously was at the start. So people do eventually become quite accustomed to things. So I don't know. Would we like to?
I mean, it'd be a nice change.
Start the season in, let's say, I don't know, Argentina, and go around the world.
They could definitely prepare a huge rule change for like 2021 if they really wanted to. Like it could completely change the landscape of F1 with the whole new power units, possibly allowing more of them, and then also bringing in more races so that said power units can last longer. So the whole thing together could actually change how F1 works. So maybe they're looking at that and they're saying, well, we could do that. We've got obviously France come back next year. We've got Germany back on the calendar next year. Argentina for the season after that, possibly. Who knows, a Las Vegas race. So, these tracks are sort of like slowly adding up.
Well, they wanted to do more street circuits as well.
Obviously, Silverstone's off the cards for 2019 or whenever it is, and still no word for a British Grand Prix, but you expect something to get announced? At least I hope
Normally,
so.
Something always ends up being announced. Something eventually.
Announce the announcement.
Yeah,
I'd like to see. I'd like to see a race in apparently there's also rumours Zandvoort might come back in Holland. I'd like to see a race in Finland or something, or like Denmark.
Zandvoort is tight as shit.
On that point, have you two seen how funny Lewis was doing testing?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah,
the new French track.
He hates Paul Ricard.
Yeah, he was like, he already got asked in an interview, "What do you think about going back there?" And he's like, "Nah, I don't like it." And then on his Instagram post, he was like, "Oh, beautiful looking track," and he's like, "To drive, not so much."
Not so much. And he was like, "Oh, look at my amazing car. To drive it, it's all right around this track."
I'm not surprised. Like, obviously, I've driven the track, not real, as in virtually, but
have you really?
It's a horrible track. It really
everyone says it's a testing track, and that's it.
It is. It's a track for touring.
It's like a Jerez style sort of track, like that sort of vibe.
I'm not a fan of it. Even Jerez is better than that.
I like
there's
Jerez,
nothing to it. Like there's a few overtaking zones, but I mean, there's no satisfaction of getting a lap out of that circuit, and there's no if you look at pictures, there's no like grandstands that are near the track. There's loads of like painted tarmac, like Abu Dhabi and Bahrain.
Yeah.
Loads and loads of it all around the track. Like you're miles away from the track at any grandstand. I don't know. Ever since the track got announced, I was just a bit like,
It doesn't seem to have any character because it's very flat as well. It's very, like, it just doesn't have that ring. And, like, it's not just us shitting on it. It just seems that even if drivers are starting to and ah about it, like, everyone's going, oh, Hamilton hates it. What about he's going to use that as an excuse? It just look like a general track to drive at. And even if it's a good testing circuit to race at, we'll see, because everyone keeps saying there's going to be one overtaking opportunity, and that's probably into turn 1 or whenever, at the end of whatever the long straight is.
Well, there's like 2-3 straights. You've got the one into turn 1, and then as you go like around, you've got like a back straight, which is massive, which could be the longest straight on the calendar, but they've actually added a chicane in, so you've got like one opportunity into the chicane, and then another one out of the chicane into the next corner.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Of all the tracks to come onto the grid or return, I think they must have raced around there before.
Like, I still wish they'd have brought Magny-Cours. I mean, in these current generation F1 cars, that track must be absolutely mental in these current generation F1 cars through some of those corners. But I guess we'll never see the day.
Yeah, quite sad on that one.
We won't see that last chicane.
No, Palmer cut the chicken, or whatever it was. But I think that was pretty much it on terms of the calendar. I don't know how many races are we on at the minute? Is it 19 or 20?
20.
We're on 20.
I feel like that's enough almost. Like even as
have you not competed this season in the F1 game, Cal?
No, not
No,
yet.
he's not. He's on 11.
I'm only at Singapore. Pipe down. I've done Singapore, but no, I think in terms of like we need to just focus on the European races and get them stapled onto the calendar and like almost super glued down before we start negotiating with other people, because you don't like I'd like if Silverstone dropped off the calendar, I think I'd cry, like because it's just it's the home of British motor racing.
Or he might,
and if it does drop off,
it'll be their own fault. It won't be F1's fault either. It will be their own fault because they agreed to a very stupid.
Well, they agreed to the deal, but then it's Bernie Ecclestone with them stupid increase clauses and shit like this. That
21 million by whatever year it was. It was such a stupid contract.
I was reading into the Donington idea back in 2009 last night actually, and that'd have been interesting because they did done a massive change. They'd changed like the term 1-2. They've made like the start finish straight so much longer and modified Donington to make it more suitable for Formula One, which I think would be a welcome change. It's just the fact that I don't want to see. I know this is probably quite biased on our end, but I just don't want to see a British Grand Prix off the calendar. Like it just would feel wrong. But obviously. People have had that issue, obviously, with if you're French, obviously you've already had that, you've already experienced it.
German.
If you're German, you will know full well about that as well. So, I think we're just gonna if it does drop off
from a TV perspective like that, for us as spectators, we weren't planning to go to the next British Grand Prix, so it's all chill. I think we're fine. We're going to the Belgian one, I think. So, but yeah, it would kind of be odd, but like you said, I think we could also get used to it. We'll see if they solve anything. At the moment, I haven't heard any news of anything rushing about to do a deal. So, but I think that's the track talk. Then, is there any kind of final things I'm trying to think of?
I'll have a little scroll.
Obviously, the big kind of umbrella thing was the whole Sainz, Renault, McLaren, Toro Rosso thing. So obviously, most other news has been overshadowed. If there was,
I suppose just preview for Singapore, really.
Well, yeah. Obviously, the Singapore Grand Prix is next weekend, so we actually should do our little predictions then at least. I know this really hasn't been a Singapore preview, but we kind of previewed Singapore in the last podcast, really, because we kind of did it a little bit later. So, do we want to do our predictions then for pole and then the top 5 then, guys, to round this out?
Yeah, I guess so.
So, pole position, I'll go. I'm going to go for Hamilton.
Seb Vettel.
Kimi Räikkönen.
Okay.
Brave.
All a bit different. And then top 5, what are we going for?
Vettel, Hamilton, Raikkonen, Bottas, Verstappen. I'm being brave, put Verstappen in.
Vettel, Raikkonen, Verstappen, Hamilton, Ricciardo.
All right. I'm going to go for Vettel, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Bottas, Raikkonen,
That's it.
Is that it? Yeah, that's it. That's
five,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
can count to 5.
Yeah, I can't count to 5. And Verstappen getting probably bad luck or coming 6th.
Well, I'm just like hoping that Verstappen can start finishing again. To be honest, because
I just think he's in that role where actually, like, I could see it very much happening, where it's beyond a joke that he just keeps getting bad luck. Unfortunately, I don't want it to happen because it's just never good to see him just out by lap 1. But
RB13, unlucky for some. I mean, the last race qualified 13th in the 13th race of the season.
Yeah, I know.
In the RB13.
Yeah, madness. But I think going into Singapore, teams to look for: Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, Toro Rosso, them sort of teams. I think they're going to quite shine. Like question marks over, like, for example, the likes of Haas and Renault. I think Renault could be up there. I think the latter stage of the points are going to be fought quite hard. Yeah, Hulkenberg. It'd be interesting to see if Sainz does go to Renault. I think it'll be perfect for him because he'll be able to learn the car and learn the team towards the end of 2017, and then 2018 he can hit the ground running.
I really cannot see a mid-season switch happening now. Too late.
I kind of want one though. It's fun.
I really do want it to happen. Just
Makes
for the sake of,
it
we never see it. We never bloody
happen.
see it in F1 anymore. It'd be
jealous. But I don't know. I think we spoke loads about Mercedes struggling. They believe that they're going to have a struggle, but they believe that it's going to be okay. I think they can get away with it. Obviously, they've been progressing every single season. I think teams that are going to struggle properly are going to be the likes of Williams, the likes of Sauber. I think Sauber are still going to quite struggle. So it's still going to be an interesting one. And there was talks about Singapore dropping off the calendar, weren't they? But is that confirmed? That they're going to be on the calendar?
Apparently, they're looking to renew it.
Oh, they are. But they'll probably do it this weekend then if they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they normally renew
most likely,
on the weekend.
Good place to do it.
But
yeah. So I think that's going to be it. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. So if you have enjoyed it, hit that like button. Let us know what you thought about anything we talked about in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed to this channel for the podcast. Check out these 2 links in the description. As always, our Twitter handles are above our names. You can check out the audio version, download it on the go on SoundCloud. It's been on the screen the entire time. But we'll see you guys next time, probably for the Singapore Grand Prix review, which again will probably be on the Monday, hopefully. If not Tuesday then, but hopefully it will be this time on the Monday, just the day after. So we'll see you guys then. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and your day. And we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.